Blue Period was something that I didn't think I would enjoy when I first heard about it. But then I saw the trailer for the anime on YouTube and I decided to just check it out anyway for myself. From there, I was slightly more interested because it looked like it was going to be the gem of that anime season. So naturally, I added it to my plan to watch. Days, weeks, months go by, and little by little, as we were approaching the air date for the first episode, I slowly gained more interest in the anime. And then it came out. The first episode aired on Netflix, and I watched it. And after that ended, I went on to read the manga. And now I can say that I have no regrets about giving it a chance. So here's a quick summary of the first chapter. Blue Period centers around a student named Yatora Yaguchi, who everyone perceives as a delinquent. He has bleached hair, ear piercings, and hangs out with the slackers of the class, essentially. But he doesn't follow the typical stereotypes associated with being a delinquent in anime. He is always near the top of his class in terms of test scores, and he's able to talk to people very easily. Through the lens of his classmates, Yatora seems to have little to no flaws, and is considered by his peers to be a genius. But as we get a closer look into his life, we see that this perception of him is just a facade for who he really is. The problem with Yatora is that he doesn't have anything to be passionate about in life. Although he gets extremely good grades and is liked by everyone around him, he feels empty when others praise him for these things. He says that the type of satisfaction he gets from building relationships with people and getting high test scores is the same one you get from meeting a quota, and that he simply puts more into meeting those quotas than other people do. That's why he's getting better results. That's all there is to it. He doesn't view himself as anything special or noteworthy, and downplays his accomplishments because deep down inside, these tasks are menial for him. This is the way Yatora has been living life. Until one day, this happens. On his way back to school, he accidentally stumbles across an art piece painted by someone in the after-school art club, and his eyes are instantly glued to it. There are a total of 10 panels of Yatora staring at this painting, and half of them are of him questioning little bits and pieces of it. This is highly uncharacteristic for Yatora because prior to this, he had no interest in art whatsoever, but for some reason, it seems as if he's intoxicated by this painting, and he can't take his eyes off of it. After some events transpire, Yatora's mindset of art changes. It goes from something that he doesn't understand, something that he even laughs at people for pursuing, to something that he yearns for. Through art, he is able to convey his true feelings, which is an important thing to note, because before, he always felt like he was putting up an act, putting on a mask whenever he hung out with his friends to make sure that he's able to keep his image up. But for the first time in his life, he's able to strip himself of this social burden and truly express his inner self. He had finally found something that he's willing to put blood, sweat, and tears into. He found a passion, and that in and of itself is beautiful. So why does all this matter? Why does that make Blue Period relatable? Well, let me get to that. There is a scene in the first chapter where Yatora is arguing with Ryuji, or Ruka-chan, about the expenses of art school versus the payout of it. He criticizes art and says that there is no future in art school, so Ruka-chan should just use his face and be a gold digger instead. But before anything further can happen, the art teacher, Masako Saiki, chimes in and validates the fact that art school can be really expensive, which leads to Yatora saying that he doesn't understand how people would want to pursue something that doesn't have any financial prospects in the future. Instead, he claims that he would rather play it safe and go for something that is reasonable. The thing is, Yatora isn't in the wrong here. His claims are completely valid, and I think that is because of the way society has put such an emphasis on the quote-unquote safe path. The quote-unquote safe path tells us that we should always stick with something more practical in life, because pursuing your passion often leads to failed ventures and dead ends. But in the pursuit of that path, many people feel like they're just being dragged through life. One of the main takeaways of Blue Period is to challenge this ideal of the safe path being the only path people should take. The manga wants people to follow their dreams, because if they don't, they'll inevitably end up with a lack of passion for what they do. Blue Period means so much to me because I related to Yatora. I, for once in my life, could utterly see myself in an anime protagonist's shoes, and it made me want to change who I was. I was tired of being dragged through life, doing things that didn't give me joy. I was tired of chasing the bag. The dream life, as people like to call it. Whatever. Now, the reason I say this is a relatable manga is because I see a lot of myself in Yatora. We both initially chose the quote-unquote safe path because we were just a little better than the majority of people at school. I had no goals in life, no ambitions. I had nothing that made me want to fight for my spot in the world. So naturally, I just followed the path that my parents and peers laid out for me in the first place. The plan was for me to go to a school for engineering, and eventually, when I graduated, I'd be able to get a good, high-paying job. So I trucked on. I listened to their advice, and eventually I got to a point where I just couldn't anymore. Every day I would come home, having absorbed no knowledge, and I would just bury my head in my pillows, hoping that they would ease my pain. The amount of times that I was depressed and in tears over those 4 years of university are endless. I thought high school was a rough time for me, but shit, man, college was also equally as shitty for me. Originally, I was gonna stick it out for the greater good, to help out my parents who have struggled to keep me well fed and raised for the past 20-ish years of my life. And I thought that I was doing something worthwhile, that all of my pain and suffering were okay because it was the least I could do for them. I thought that if I sacrificed my mental health, I could make everyone else around me so much happier. But I couldn't have been more wrong. And it wasn't just for my parents either. It wasn't just for my family. Some part of me wanted to stick it out too because all my friends thought I was going to be able to do it. So if I quit, I'd be letting down so many people around me. So seeing Yatora go through a similar situation very early on in his life was extremely cathartic for me. I was seeing someone who actually enjoyed what he was doing, no matter the consequences. He went against his mother's initial wishes and pushed back against his counselor's advances to switch to something more practical. Instead, he stuck to his guns and pushed on despite the negativity surrounding it. Blue Period inspired me to take that leap into something new, something unknown. One day I had enough, and I finally told my mom about what I was going through. And she surprisingly understood. She told me that she's been seeing me struggle so much for the past 4 years, and I should just do whatever makes me happy. Because there's nothing in life that would make her more proud than to see me happy. Oh man. I remember that semester's finals week like it was yesterday. I looked at the exams, I did what I could, and then I just walked out. I didn't sit there struggling, I didn't sit there looking like I knew what I was doing. I just left. Was the most liberated I had ever felt. I finally felt free for the first time in a very long time. I wasn't held down by anyone anymore, and I could do what I wanted to do. I could do what I had been passionate about in the first place. Well, here I am, having dropped out of that godforsaken school, and now I'm at a new school studying film and making movies with people who share the same passion as I do. Honestly, I couldn't be happier. I have zero regrets about dropping engineering, and I've come to the realization that it just wasn't for me. I don't want to bash engineering just because I had a terrible experience with it, because the world needs engineers. But if anyone is about to start, or if any of you have doubts about continuing your journey, then I want you to sit down and think about what I'm about to ask. Are you happy? If you are, and perfectly okay with it, then I say go for it, man, do it. But if you aren't, then ask yourself what you'd actually rather be doing instead. Find that spark, find that passion, and I promise you that everything will make sense. Every day now, I wake up wanting to do something, wanting to make something, and I don't think I've ever wanted to go to school as much as I do now. It's something that I wish I did back when I was younger, something that I want to see for the future generation of growing adults. The message of Blue Period, at least how I see it, is simply just to follow your dreams. It's not worth it to keep on trucking, hoping to get a job in a field that you wouldn't even like in the first place. It's better to pursue your dreams because you only have one life. So why not put all your effort into doing something that you were truly passionate about in the first place? As long as you put in the work, and as long as you're willing to accept failure along the way, chasing your passion isn't a pipe dream after all. In the very, very wise words of my friend, Yatora is just like me, for real.